How's it going, folks? I'm Cody Campbell with High Ground Gaming, and today we're talking about a pretty interesting gaming monitor. This is the Porsche Design AOC Agon Pro PD32M. This is a collaboration between AOC, the monitor company, and Porsche, the sports car or luxury car company. They've actually already made a 27-inch curved monitor in the past, but this is their second collaboration. This is a 32-inch flat mini LED IPS panel. But with luxury brands come luxury prices, and this bad boy costs $1,800. I know that's a pretty big step for most people to buy a monitor. So instead of doing one of our normal reviews where we're going to go through the price, performance, all the features and all that, I just want to have a more informal talk about what this does and why someone might be interested in it. So let's start off by talking about the specs. This is a 3840 by 2160 4K monitor. It has 144 hertz refresh rate and a 1 millisecond response time. The display resolution and refresh rate on this are all interesting because while none of them are exactly top tier anymore, like there's 8K monitors, there's refresh rates up in the 300s, and there's 0.5 millisecond response times, it's more than enough for anyone who's not specifically doing like competitive gaming. Realistically, a competitive gamer is probably not going to go for a 32-inch 4K monitor. They're going to go for a 24-inch, lower resolution, higher frame rate monitor because those are more useful. They give you a competitive edge in shooters and stuff like that. But for someone who wants a gorgeous image and doesn't want to have to worry about things like motion blur, having a super high resolution with a super high refresh rate and a pretty good response time is going to guarantee that you have the power to give a quality image that's not going to see frame drops when you start moving quickly. Of course, to push those kinds of frames at 4K, you're going to need a pretty powerful graphics card, but odds are if you're spending $1,800 on a monitor, you probably already do. It also has adaptive sync, which works sort of like both G-Sync and FreeSync. It basically allows both NVIDIA and AMD GPUs to match up frame rates with the monitor. It has two HDMI 2.1 inputs. It has a display port. It has 4 USB 3.2 ports, and a USB Type-C port, and a headphone jack. It has display HDR 1400, which is pretty good for those HDR fans out there. And it has DTS certified 8-watt speakers. Now, most of the monitors that I've looked at in the past, I think have used 5-watt speakers. So 8-watt is definitely a bit of a step up. Here's kind of the rub with that though. I don't think that's that big of a selling point on a monitor this expensive because 8-watt speakers in a monitor still aren't great. Like, it still doesn't sound amazing. It sounds like monitor speakers. Honestly, I don't think there's a way to make monitor speakers that are going to give you a truly cinematic experience unless you have a sound bar at the bottom of the monitor, which I think a couple of them do. I feel like anybody who drops this kind of cash on a monitor is either going to have a really nice set of headphones that they're going to be doing most of their listening through, or they're going to invest in a sound system, which is going to negate this entirely. That said, if you do primarily like to listen through headphones, I guess it is sort of nice just to have a speaker option baked in, just in case you want to, I don't know, unplug every once in a while to watch a YouTube video or something like that. It also comes with this wireless quick switch, which is pretty interesting because you can do 3 different profiles on here, and at the push of a button, you can just switch through those. And that makes it really convenient for having different sorts of settings for different sorts of games or use cases. You could have one for TV and movies, one for productivity, searching the internet, that sort of thing, and one for gaming, or different ones for different kinds of gaming. It's really up to you. I personally set number 3 to productivity, so it's a little dimmer, a little bit less blue light, so there's not so much strain on my eyes because I work from home. I spend 8 hours a day staring at this thing when I'm not gaming. Then I set number 2 to a brighter, higher color profile setting for when I want to play games. This is also how you navigate the monitor's UI. So you can go ahead and just open the menu here and you can change the game settings, the luminance, the image setup, the color setup, the audio, the light effects, extra effects, and then the OSD setup. It uses a little USB dongle that plugs in on the USB ports in the bottom of the monitor, and then this guy actually runs on batteries, and you can just set it on your desk and use it to control the monitor whenever. I used the monitor to play a few different kinds of games. I tried to pick ones that had like really different color profiles so that I could see how they all looked using the monitor. I played Cyberpunk 2077, I played Elden Ring, I played Plague Tale Requiem, and I played a little bit of Deathloop. And as I was playing, I found that all of these games had really bright images, really vibrant color palettes, and definitely very, very sharp image quality. I didn't have any issues with ghosting or frame drops or tearing or anything like that. It was just a really enjoyable experience the whole time. But as great as using this monitor was, I just keep coming back to the fact that there are a lot of similarly spec'd monitors on the market for less than half the price. You can get 4K, 144 hertz, 1 millisecond response time, 32-inch monitors for, less than half the price of this, like around $600. Sure, there's some other features like HDR and stuff like that, and you have to be concerned about brightness and color palette and all these other factors. But ultimately, it makes it really hard to justify that $1,800 price point. So why would somebody buy this? And the truth is, because it's a statement piece. It is a luxury item. This is something that you point to and go, oh yeah, I have the Porsche monitor. So it's worth taking a look at what Porsche and AOC have done to make this a statement piece, a luxury item. And you can just kind of look at the build of it to start. First of all, there's this brushed gunmetal gray housing that it has on it, which just looks very sleek, very nice. You got the Porsche design logo right on the front there. Then we have some other stuff on the back. There's some lighting. We've got some RGB back here, which is, a nice enough touch. I have my desk against the wall, so nobody's ever really going to see that, but if you're the kind of person who has your desk in the middle of your gaming room, office, whatever, then, you can appreciate the back of that. It's not bright enough to really cast on the wall. Maybe if it was like mounted against the wall or something like that, but it's a nice touch. It also has these headphone hangers on the side here, which are a little gimmicky. There's one on each side, and they sort of pop out like, like a cup holder sort of thing. They're a little wobbly. They're just kind of wimpy pieces of plastic. But that's not the worst of it. Honestly, this monitor is plenty stable when it's just sitting there on its own, but there is a bit of wobble to it if you press on it, right? Wouldn't usually be a big deal because, you're never really pressing or leaning on your monitor at all. But if you choose to use the headphone hanger, it tilts it. There is a slight tilt. The weight of the headphones, you can see it coming back up. It's a quarter of an inch maybe. It's not enough to be a really big deal, but for me, I couldn't stand that. I could not look at a monitor that is just ever so slightly askew. That would just drive me crazy. But I feel like the main design feature of this monitor is actually the base. It is VESA mount certified, so you can VESA mount it if you want to, but I feel like that would actually take away part of, the points of buying this monitor, because I feel like a big chunk of what you're paying for is actually the base. It has this trapezoidal aluminum frame that was designed specifically to look like a Porsche steering wheel. For those of you who really want your monitor to look like a Porsche steering wheel. It does look pretty cool though. It looks pretty sleek. It has this projector that projects a light image on the base of the stand, which can either show the Agon logo or the Porsche logo. And that's a gimmick. You can turn it off if you want to. You can adjust the brightness on it. But it's there if you appreciate that sort of thing. There you go. Its range of mobility is actually pretty impressive, though. It rotates up and down. It rotates side to side. It has a pretty good range of vertical adjustment as well, which I greatly appreciate, because being able to get a monitor at a good eye level is probably the most important function of a stand. It's very stable. It's not going to tilt or anything like that. You could bump it and it'll be okay. It also rotates, however, and it rotates all the way to a portrait location. So you can have it mounted vertically instead of horizontally if you want to. I'm not going to do that right now though, because I actually tried to do that while it was all plugged in and everything earlier, and I accidentally broke a DisplayPort cable because it got caught on the edge of the frame as I was turning it, and it just sort of broke the connectors in there. So I won't be doing that again. If you choose to use this monitor and you want to be able to switch back and forth between the two different directions, I would definitely make sure that your cables are managed in such a way that they're not going to hit the edge of the frame. I don't think it would really be that big of an issue if you weren't, changing it back and forth all the time. It was just because I was messing around with it to get B-roll and stuff like that for this video. So let's just get down to some final thoughts about this monitor. I liked it. I really enjoyed using it. I think it's a fantastic piece of technology. And I think that my games have never looked more beautiful than they did when I was playing them on this monitor. That said, that doesn't mean that the price to performance ratio is adequate. I just don't feel like I'm in the right tax bracket to say whether or not it's worth spending as much as I spent on my first car on a gaming monitor. I just can't fathom spending that kind of money on a monitor personally. But why don't you go ahead and drop down into the comments and let us know what you think. If you had $1,800 burning a hole in your pocket, does this seem like the kind of thing you'd go for, or is that just too expensive no matter how nice the base looks? While you're at it, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got a lot more content coming really soon, and we'd hate for you to miss any of it. Okay, everybody, thanks for watching. Happy gaming.